What's going on today, guys? Mojo here, and welcome to my 2014 NHL Trade Deadline review. So, today's video, we're going to be going over all of the trades that happened at this year's trade deadline. A very exciting trade deadline, if I do say so myself. Tons of trades being made, tons of picks being dealt out everywhere, tons of players being sent to new teams. So, I'm going to give my review on every single one of these trades. I think we have 25 different trades to go over. Like I said, there were more trades than that, but I just wanted to talk about the 25 most important ones that I thought were significant. I'll see if I can run through some of the minor ones if I come across them. But without further ado, let's get started with the trade that happened well before the trade deadline, which was the trade between the St. Louis Blues and the Buffalo Sabres. So the St. Louis Blues get goaltender Ryan Miller and forward Steve Ott in return for goalie Yaroslav Halak, forward Chris Stewart, prospect William Carrier, a first-round pick in 2015, and a conditional third-round pick in 2016. So I think that conditional pick can turn into a second-round pick if the St. Louis Blues do make the Western Conference Finals or if Ryan Miller decides to re-sign with the St. Louis Blues. So the winning team out of this trade is definitely the St. Louis Blues. I mean, you got a stud goaltender now in Ryan Miller, a good grindy ass third or fourth liner in Steve Ott, and I mean Ryan Miller's already won his first two games with the Blues. I mean, you have a great goaltender in Ryan Miller. Put him in front of, put him behind the great defense that the St. Louis Blues have, and automatically the Blues become an immediate Cup contender now. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Blues have one of the best defensive cores now in the NHL, I believe, and their offense still, they got a lot of depth on offense, so this team is going to be absolutely, look out for them when the playoff time comes, no doubt. So I obviously think that the Blues came out the winner of this. Buffalo, Yaroslav Halak, I mean, we'll get to him later. Chris Stewart, they decided to keep him. They didn't decide to trade Chris Stewart, so I guess they're going to keep him around. I mean, he's a good player. He has his streaks. He's a kind of a streaky player. He's either really good one night or really terrible another night. I don't know much about William Carrier. I'm assuming that he's a fairly good prospect. First round pick in 2015 is always good, and the fact that that conditional pick can turn into a second round pick if St. Louis does make the finals or Ryan Miller resigns, I think there's a fairly good chances of both of those happening. So they could get a good second round pick out of that. So like I said, Buffalo gets some picks, decent forward that they can have a prospect, and yeah, I think. But still, St. Louis definitely was the winner of this trade. All right, so the next trade on our list is between the Florida Panthers and the Montreal Canadiens. So the Florida Panthers gave Mike Weaver to the Montreal Canadiens in return for a fifth-round pick in 2015. Nothing really too big here. I guess Montreal just picks up another good depth defenseman that they could have for some certain games. Mike Weaver for a fifth-round pick. Nothing really too big to talk about there. All right, next trade between Washington and Anaheim. The Capitals pick up forward Dustin Penner in return for a fourth-round pick in 2014. So Washington picks up a very good depth forward here, probably a third or a fourth liner for Dustin Penner. Not a bad player at all for a fourth-round pick. It's more than like I said, Penner will give the Washington Capitals some more grit on that third and fourth line. They already have it. But still, it's a good trade for Washington to pick up another good depth forward there. All right, so next trade we have here between the Minnesota Wild and the Edmonton Oilers. Ilya Bryzgalov makes his way over to the Minnesota Wild in return for a fourth-round pick in 2014. Well, I guess Edmonton basically just got a free fourth-round pick out of Bryzgalov. I mean, we bought out Briz. Edmonton decides to re-sign him and then trade him to the Minnesota Wild. So Edmonton basically picks up a free fourth-round pick. Ah, man. Bryzgalov now takes his talents over to Minnesota. He's going farther and farther away from us. Oh, man. Whatever. All right, so Edmonton deals that one goaltender, so they have to get another goaltender back, and they pick up Victor Fast from the Anaheim Ducks for a fifth-round pick in 2014 and a third-round pick in 2015. I think this is actually a pretty good pick for the pretty good pickup for the Edmonton Oilers. Victor Fast is actually a pretty good, decent goaltender for a fifth and a third, which is I think that's a pretty good deal. Like I said, Edmonton is starting to once again do that rebuild again. I mean, out of all the trades that Edmonton made today, I think this is one of the better ones that they've made. We'll get to all the other, I think personally, stupid trades that the Edmonton Oilers made today for a lot of their players. But I think this is one of the better trades that the Oilers made today, getting a very good goaltender now that they have Scrivens and Fast as their 1-2 combination. It's actually it's a decent goaltending team. I'm not gonna lie. So this is one of the better deals that Edmonton made all day. All right, next up we have the Anaheim Ducks picking up another good depth defenseman in Stefan Robidas for a conditional fourth-round pick. 2014 goes to the Dallas Stars. Not sure how the conditional works in this trade. Probably if Robidas decides to re-sign. I think he's a free agent at the end of this year, so have to see what happens about that. But once again, just a good pickup for the Ducks. A good another depth defenseman. Like I said, a lot of picks being dealt for a lot of rental players this year. All right, next up we move to the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Islanders. So the Philadelphia Flyers pick up Andrew McDonald for a third-round pick in 2014, a second-round pick in 2015, and forward Matt Mangine. Uh, pretty good pickup for the Flyers, I guess. I mean, McDonald was one of the leading defensemen. I think he was the leading defenseman in block shots in the entire NHL. And like I said, I think that was a good pickup because Grossman is the one blocking shots for the Flyers night after night. So it's a good, good pickup for the Flyers so that they can get another person to take that load off of Grossman. I think they might have overpaid a little bit too much for an unrestricted free agent. I mean, a third round pick. Yeah, I don't think they should have given up a second round pick in 2015, personally. Um, Matt Mangine, he was nothing really too special in our prospect system, so I'm perfectly fine with that. And plus, Mangine is a New York boy anyway, so he goes to play for the goes to play in the Isle. But yeah, I think Homer gave up a little bit too much. I don't like that second round pick of 2015 at all. Third round pick is fine because the Flyers really don't draft that great late rounds anyway. But the second round pick probably could have been something special. But yeah, what are you gonna do? Good pickup, though, personally. All right, so now we get on to one of the bigger trades. Actually, I missed a couple picks, a couple trades in here, so I'll lay these out for you. Florida got forward Mark Mancierning, and St. Louis got Eric Selleck. Vancouver got forward Jeff Costello. Ottawa gets Patrick Mullen, defenseman. Chicago gets defenseman David Rundblad and Mathieu Brisebois. Phoenix gets a 2014 second-round pick. I don't know how good that pick for Chicago is. I know Rundblad gets good in NHL 14. I don't know if he's that good in real life, but seems like a good deal for Chicago. Get two defensemen. Like I said, Phoenix is full of defensive prospects. All right, so now we move on to one of the bigger trades of the day. The Florida Panthers get goaltender Roberto Luongo and forward Steven Anthony from the Vancouver Canucks for goaltender Jacob Markstrom and forward Sean Matthias. It's about time Roberto Luongo finally gets his ass out of Vancouver and joins Timmy Thomas, which he wouldn't stay there for long. We'll get to that in a minute. But personally, I think I don't really know who's the winner of this deal. I would think the Florida Panthers are the winners of this deal, personally, because they finally get a good goaltender now with a upcoming Florida Panthers team, a young gun Florida Panthers team. Like I said, Roberto Luongo. He's fairly young. I think he's only about like 31, I want to say he is. So he has at least a good another like 4 more years for the Florida Panthers to maybe make a playoff run again. Maybe like year 3, maybe like 3 years down the line. His third year down there, I could see the Florida Panthers being a cup contending team. But going back the other way, Jacob Markstrom and Sean Matthias. I mean, Matthias is a good third line depth player. They get a goaltender now, a young goaltender in Jacob Markstrom, but now the goaltending tandem in Vancouver is Markstrom and Eddie Lack. I don't know if you Vancouver Canucks fans have faith in both Eddie Lack and Jacob Markstrom to get it done. I mean, I've seen Eddie Lack play a couple games here and there. He's a decent goaltender. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know if he's that goaltender for you guys. But I mean, just all the drama with Luongo and the organization with Vancouver finally gets over. He has a fresh start now in Florida. Goes back to Florida where he originally got drafted to. So we'll just have to see how that trade levels out. Like I said, if I don't really know who would become the winner out of this deal personally. It's just good for both teams that Luongo finally gets out of Vancouver. Florida gets a good goaltender and more depth to Vancouver. All right, so next trade here, another person who wanted to get out of the team, which he was already a part of. So Martin Erat finally gets out of Washington. So Erat and John Mitchell to the Phoenix Coyotes. In return, goes to Washington for forward Chris Brown, Rostislav Klesla, and a fourth-round pick in 2015. So Martin Erat finally gets out of Washington. Phoenix gets a probably good second-line player, I would think, in Martin Erat. John Mitchell, I think he's a third or fourth liner. I'm not entirely sure. It could be a prospect too. I'm not entirely sure. But Washington gets Chris Brown, who is a pretty good forward. Klesla, he'll get dealt later in a fourth-round pick in 2015. So a good pickup for Phoenix, I think. Another good depth forward to make a playoff push for the Coyotes. So that's a good deal for Phoenix. Another big trade, probably one of the bigger trades of the day, would be Martin St. Louis. I forgot to include this on here. So Martin St. Louis and a conditional pick to the New York Rangers in return to the Tampa Bay Lightning for forward Ryan Callahan, a first-round pick in 2015 and a second-round pick in 2014, which is also a conditional pick. So the conditional pick for the Rangers, if Tampa Bay re-signs Ryan Callahan, I believe it is a conditional second-round pick, I believe, or a third-round pick. So once again, the drama down there in Tampa Bay, Martin St. Louis pissed off that Yzerman didn't select him to the Canadian team. I guess just boiled over to new. I guess it just finally just boiled over. Martin St. Louis is out of Tampa Bay just when Steven Stamkos makes his return. I bet Stammer's probably pissed as shit because of that. But basically, the Rangers and the Lightning swap captains basically. And definitely think Tampa Bay got the better end of this deal. I mean, Ryan Callahan, he's still fairly young. St. Louis only has about maybe two or 3 years left in him. They get a first-round pick. They get a second-round pick. That was a really good trade for Tampa Bay. We'll have to see how good Callahan and Stamkos work together. I don't know if Callahan will be put on the first line with Stamkos, but I could see maybe him taking over the second line. Maybe moving up one of those young kids up to the first line to work with Stammer. Not entirely sure, but I definitely think the Tampa Bay Lightning won by far over this trade with the New York Rangers. So like I said, Martin St. Louis probably will give that offensive aspect now, the playmaking aspect to the Rangers. Like I said, they played last night. He looked pretty good working with Brad Richards, showing some of that old chemistry back together. So once again, I think Tampa Bay won that trade, no doubt. All right, so now begins the start of the shit trades for the Edmonton Oilers. Ottawa gets Alex Hemsky Edmonton gets back a fifth-round pick and fifth in 2014 and a third in 2015. I screwed up the numbers there, but yeah, they get a third-round pick of 2105. Yeah, this was a shit trade, I think, for the Oilers. A fifth and a third for Alex Hemsky. I definitely think they could have got more. I mean, that's a really bad trade, I think. And Edmonton also eats up half of Alex Hemsky's salary as well over to Ottawa. I mean, Ottawa gets a good forward now, probably like a good second liner to have, but I think Edmonton really dropped the ball on this. A fifth and a third for Alex Hemsky, that was way too low ball on it for them. They should have got way more than that. Bad trade there for good trade for Ottawa, bad trade for Edmonton. All right, so Montreal picks up a goalie in Devin Dubnyk, and the Nashville Predators get future considerations. They haven't named them yet. So good, better goaltender than Budaj, no doubt. Don't know why they would have picked up Dubnyk though. I'm not sure if he's an unrestricted free agent or restricted free agent at the end of this year. I don't know why the Canadians drafted this guy because I think they still have Tokarski. I'm not entirely sure. And I know they have Zachary Fucale, who they just recently drafted. So I'm not entirely sure why they would have picked up Dubnyk with Fucale coming up fairly soon. I could see him maybe coming up in like a year or two. I don't know why they would have picked up Dubnyk. I guess he's just a really good backup to have now. But Devin Dubnyk doesn't perform from time to time, as you guys can see in Edmonton. But the Canadians do have a decent defense, so I can see maybe Dubnyk performing fairly well. Like I said, Nashville had a good defense, but he didn't really perform up to snuff either. So we'll have to see what future considerations go for Dubnyk. Probably like a late pick or something like that. One trade here I didn't bother to list, so the LA Kings get defenseman Brayden McNabb, a 2014 second and a 2015 second to the Buffalo Sabres in return get Hudson Fatching and Nick Delorier. Don't know anything about those prospects. I know Brandon McNabb is fairly good. Not entirely sure about that. A lot of Buffalo fans have said he's not really all that great. But if Buffalo had to deal at 2 seconds to get back a two forward and defensive prospect, must be, I don't know. I don't know what you guys. Let me know what you think of that trade. Another big trade here between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the LA Kings. So the Los Angeles Kings pick up Marian Gaborik, and the Columbus Blue Jackets get Matt Fratton, a second-round pick, and a conditional third-round pick. By far, the winners of this trade were the LA Kings, no doubt. You can now put Marian Gaborik on a line with, I think, Anze Kopitar and maybe Mike Richards. Dear God, that's scary. That's a scary line. LA Kings now become another good Cup contending team, or at least a team to look out for in the playoffs, especially with Marian Gaborik. I know he's fairly injury prone, but still, it's Marian Gaborik playing on a line with Kopitar and maybe Mike Richards. That's a scary line to think about. Like I said, Columbus gets back Matt Fratton, okay, a second-round pick, okay, a conditional third-round pick. Columbus really didn't make out all too great here. And I mean, dealing Marian Gaborik now, I guess Columbus is pretty much just saying they're still in a wild card spot, but I mean, trading Marian Gaborik now, it kind of just seems like the Columbus Blue Jackets have given up on a playoff race now. I mean, that's the way I view it. I don't know about what you Columbus fans think, but that's the way I see it. You give up probably your best forward, and you're still in a playoff race, only down by like 2 points. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. Columbus is still in the race for a wild card spot, but now you trade Marian Gaborik, it just makes it seem like they've just given up. I don't know. It's a good trade for LA. It's just weird why Columbus would have traded Marian Gaborik while they're still in a playoff spot. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so the Pittsburgh Penguins now get forward Marcel Gottsch from the Florida Panthers in return for a 5th and 14 and a 3rd and 15. I'll get to this later when the final trade Pittsburgh Penguins make on this deadline. I'll explain it in a minute, but it's a good trade for Pittsburgh. They definitely got the winner out of this, a good third-line center that the Pittsburgh needs. I thought this trade would have definitely meant that Sutter would have been out of Pittsburgh, but fortunately he did stay in Pittsburgh, so it looks like Gotch will be probably maybe on the 4th line or still on the 3rd line, who knows. But yeah, just a 5th and a 3rd for Marcel Gotch for Pittsburgh. Good trade there. Let's see. So now the Devils make another trade here. Doesn't make sense to me. They get forward Tomo Ruutu from the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Andrei Laktianov and a conditional 3rd-round pick in 2017. Don't know why they gave up a conditional pick in 2017. That's 3 freaking years from now. I mean, I don't know what the hell was up with that. But instead of getting a speedy winger, New Jersey continued to get older and slower. Tomo Ruutu, I mean, he's slow as anything. He's like in his 30s at least. Once again, a trade that just doesn't make sense with the New Jersey Devils. And they give up a young forward in Laktianov to the Hurricanes, who are in a playoff spot. So that was a better trade, I think, for the Hurricanes, giving up an old forward, getting a young forward in Laktianov. Doesn't make sense for the Devils. I don't know. The Devils are a really good defensive team now, but it's just that they're way too slow. And that trade just doesn't make sense for me. I guess New Jersey's just going to try to win games now defensively rather than win them offensively. All right. Goalie swap here. Dallas Stars get Tim Thomas from the Panthers in exchange for goaltender Dan Ellis. I guess the sitcom between Luongo and Tim Thomas definitely was not going to work out. Apparently, Tim Thomas was not happy at all that Luongo went to Florida, and Florida had to deal this guy quick. So, swapping the goaltenders there. Timmy Thomas to Dallas, Dan Ellis to Florida. This trade I was not very happy about at all. I mean, Columbus got an absolute steal out of this pick. They got Nick Schultz for a 5th-round pick. Edmonton, what in the God's living hell are you doing? Nick Schultz was probably one of your best defensemen other than Justin Schultz that you guys still had left on your team. I mean, they traded away Schmid for literally nothing, and now you're trading away Nick Schultz for a 5th-round pick. Doesn't make sense at all to me. I talked about Richard for this, and he was not happy about this at all. He was just like saying, like, does the Edmonton Oilers not want us to become fans anymore? Basically, that's a terrible trade, and personally, in my opinion. At least get a third from him. I mean, a 5th-round pick for Nick Schultz? Give me a break, dude. That's a terrible trade for the Oilers. Terrible. I mean, it's a great trade for Columbus, but that's a terrible trade for the Oilers. Now, this one, Andres Mazaros goes to Buffalo. Flyers get a 3rd-round pick in return. 2014 3rd-round pick. So I guess that's pretty good because we gave up our 3rd in 14 for the McDonald trade. So we get back our 3rd for Mazaros. Basically just changing up defensemen here. We're switching up Mazaros with McDonald. Like I said, Mazaros is injury prone, but I don't know how I feel about this trade. Mazaros was actually starting to play fairly well the past couple of games. I mean, he started transitioning from a two-way basically into an offensive defenseman, stepping up into play so much. So, I mean, Mazaros does. This pick is conditional as well, so it does turn into a 2nd-round pick if the Boston Bruins do make the conference finals. So that'll be good if it turns into a 2nd-round pick for Mazaros. So hopefully Boston can reach the conference finals. Unless it's against us, then fortunately we have to set them back. But I think this is a good trade. If Boston makes the finals, it's a good trade. So just a pick there. Just another Rangers pick up the depth defenseman Rafael Diaz from the Canucks for a 5th-round pick. Nothing really much needs to be said there. Just a pick. Rental player for a late-round pick. Okay, so the Colorado Avalanche pick up goaltender Rito Barra from the Calgary Flames for a draft pick, which actually eventually turned out to be a 2nd-round pick in 2014. That's a good trade for Colorado. I mean, once again, they had Varlamov and I think Giguere was their backup, so now they get a better backup in Barra. So they have Varlamov and Barra now. So that's a good 1-2 punch in goaltending. Calgary gets a 2nd-round pick for Barra. I don't know why Calgary traded Barra anyway. I mean, I guess they're going to run with Kari Ramo. And I don't know who else is going to be their next goaltender. I think I can almost guarantee Calgary could essentially draft a goalie this year because I really don't know what they have in the system-wise for goaltenders. So, I mean, they get a 2nd-round pick out of it. They might use that 2nd-round pick to draft a goalie. Who knows? But that's a good trade for Colorado to get another good backup goaltender. All right, probably one of the another bigger trades of the day. Jesus, we're almost done. A couple more to go to. So we got forward Thomas Vanek going to the Montreal Canadiens of all teams in return for forward Sebastian Kohlberg and a 2nd-round pick, I think, in 2014. So Gar Snow probably saved his job trading away Vanek. To a team that nobody really saw coming, the Montreal Canadiens. A lot of people were saying him to the, I think they were saying him to like the Wild or the Los Angeles Kings, but the Kings made the trade for Gaborik. So Vanek goes to the Montreal Canadiens now. Sebastian Kohlberg, draft probably a prospect and a 2nd-round pick for Vanek. Once again, good trade for the Canadiens, I think. They get a good sniper here, pretty fast skating. Actually, just like a mid-skating sniper. It just seems weird because the Montreal Canadiens pick up like a 30-year-old guy when the whole entire Montreal Canadiens team is fairly young. It's a little bit funny, but like I said, Montreal Canadiens are making a serious playoff run this year, and Vanek will be probably one of those. I think like the Montreal Canadiens are a good power play team, but they struggle scoring goals 5-on-5. So I think Vanek will be able to help them out scoring goals regulation wise. So, once again, good trade for the Canadiens. Gar Snow probably just saved his job doing that trade. And another trade here, the Minnesota Wild pick up Matt Moulson and Cody McCormick from the Buffalo Sabres in return for Torrey Mitchell and I think a pair of draft picks as well. I think they were two 2nd-rounders in 14 and 15. So the Wild get Matt Moulson and Cody McCormick. McCormick is a prospect. Matt Moulson now goes over to the Wild. So Pominville and Matt Moulson are now working together again. Well, not working together again, but you know what I mean. Moulson and Pominville, two people that went to Buffalo, get traded to Minnesota. Now they'll probably be playing on a line together. Minnesota gets another good forward there in Moulson. McCormick, a good prospect. Mitchell, I think, is fairly young, a forward, depth forward, and a couple draft picks as well. So Buffalo just trading a lot, getting rid of a lot of forwards and picking up some draft picks. So a good pickup there for the Minnesota Wild. All right, so now Swapping of goaltenders once again, Washington gets goaltender Yaroslav Halak and a third-round pick in 2015 in exchange to goes to Buffalo for goaltender Michael Neuwirth and Rostislav Kolesla. So Washington picks up Yaroslav Halak. They get rid of Neuwirth, so now it's going to be Holtby and Halak, which I mean, I don't know how I feel about this for the Capitals fans. A third round pick of 15, okay. Buffalo gets Neuwirth, so they can have Enroth, Neuwirth, and then eventually that Russian goaltender I think that Buffalo has as well. So and Klesla, who's going to be a an older defenseman, which is it's not bad because I mean you have they have who they have. They have Ehrhoff and Klesla now, so they have the two kind of veteran defensemen. So it's a good pickup for Buffalo. And goaltender Michael Neuwirth, I mean, maybe he's like the Steve Mason, just needs like a change of scenery to maybe get his goaltending on the right track. But I don't know if Washington necessarily made a good trade there with Halak. I mean, just kind of weird if you ask me, getting Halak over to Washington. Washington fans will have to let me know about that. Two more to go. Big trade, very good trade here. I think one of the better trades of the day. I think so. The Detroit Red Wings missing Pavel Datsyuk now for a while, missing Henrik Zetterberg. They needed to make a trade here with somebody, so they made a trade with the Nashville Predators. They get David Legwand, who actually waived his no trade clause to go to Detroit. And in return, the Nashville Predators pick up Patrick Eaves, Kelly Ironhooker, Jarnkrok, and a third-round pick. So this was a very good trade for both teams, I believe. Detroit gets a veteran forward in Legwand to work with some of those guys, a veteran leader. Nashville gets Patrick Eaves. Okay, that's a good depth forward for them to have. Uh, Jarnkrok, I think there was talks on TSN. I was watching it, not TSN, on NHL Network during the trade deadline news that he may go back to the Swedish Elite League, but I think the NHL has some rules in place that the Nashville Predators can work out so that he can eventually come back to the NHL team. Because, like I said, I think Nashville has a lot of Swedish players as well. And Detroit is just full of Swedish players, so they gave a Swede away and a third round pick. So once again, I think this was one of the better underrated trades of the day. Like I said, Nashville gets another depth forward, they get a prospect, a third round pick, and Detroit gets a veteran leader now when Datsyuk and Zetterberg are pretty much out for a good while, so they can have another good person to look up to. And finally, let me go over the trades that I missed, just not the non-essential ones. Anaheim got forward Andre Peterson, and Ottawa got defenseman Alex Grant. I think that's one of the only other ones I missed. Yeah, it's the only one I missed. And the last trade that was made of the day, Pittsburgh gets forward. I guess Pittsburgh did not pick up Brian Kessler all this trade deadline, so they settle for forward Lee Stepniak from the Calgary Flames in exchange for a third-round pick. Personally, Pittsburgh gets Marcel Gottsch, right? They get forward Lee Stepniak, and I'm not just bashing you Pittsburgh Penguins fans. How do you guys have salary cap still? Personally, I don't know how the hell you guys keep making all these trades for players. How the living hell do you guys still have salary cap to take on Gotch and a guy like Lee Stepniak? It just bewilders me. It bewilders me how the Pittsburgh Penguins do not apply to the salary cap whatsoever. I mean, Crosby's making close to what? Like 10 mil. Malkin's probably making close to 7. Neal's probably making 6. Fleury's probably making close to 6. Letang's making close to 8 or 10. Just doesn't make sense how you guys still have all the cap room in the world to make these trades with people. But whatever, it's a good another depth forward for the Penguins to pick up in Lee Stepniak, a third or fourth liner for a third round pick. So that wraps up all the trades that were made on this trade deadline. Big names that were still here. Ryan Kessler still in Vancouver, so that was a big thing there. I guess that Vancouver Canucks would have been a rebuilding team if a Kessler would have went, and then who knows what would have happened with the Sedins in the off season. But Kessler still stays, so it looks like Vancouver is still trying to make a cup run. Who else stayed? There's a lot of minor players that stayed. Shen, obviously, Braden Shen still stayed with the Flyers. There's probably like a ton of other players which I'm missing here, but just drawing a blank as of right now. But that's all the trades that were made to this deadline, guys. So let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. Let me know who are winners, who are losers at this trade deadline, who you think is going to benefit from all these trades. And what was your favorite trade of the day? What you think was the best trade of the day? Which general manager do you think should be shouted out here? I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs made absolutely no deals whatsoever. I thought they would have been a team that make a deal, but they didn't make any splashes whatsoever. So let's just whatever you guys want to talk about, leave it in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. And thanks for watching, guys. And that was a pretty good draft, a pretty good trade deadline, a very exciting one. Hopefully, the draft this coming off season in Philadelphia, which I hopefully will be going to, will definitely be exciting as well. And we'll have to see what happens in the postseason, the playoff race, as it gets pretty interesting in both the East and the West. See which teams make it and how it'll play out for an exciting postseason run. So thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, thanks for watching.